They say every town has that one house. The one parents warn their kids about. The one that sits rotting behind rusted gates, whispering secrets to the wind. In our town, that house was at the end of Hollow Creek Road. Windows shattered like broken eyes. The air around it, always colder than the rest of the street. And the stories? Oh, they weren't just urban legends whispered at sleepovers. They came from real people. People who never returned quite the same. It had been empty for over 20 years, until one night, out of nowhere, a light flickered inside. That's when I made the worst decision of my life. I went in. I didn't go in to explore. I didn't go in to film. I went in to find my brother. He vanished last Halloween. His last text. Inside now. You won't believe what's in here. Most believe he ran away. But I know what I saw. I heard the screams, saw something, moved behind the curtains long after the cops left. This is not a story about ghosts. This is a story about something far older. Something that waits. What lives inside that house doesn't want to scare you, it wants to keep you. And once you hear the knocking from beneath the floorboards, it's already too late. My name is Ethan. I grew up in a small, overlooked town called Willow's Edge, a place that always smelled of pine and forgotten promises. We had one gas station, one school, and a stretch of woods so thick it swallowed sound. But the one thing everyone in Willow's Edge knew about, what they didn't talk about, was the old house at the edge of Hollow Creek Road. You could see it from the bus window if you sat in the back. A massive, sagging Victorian beast smothered in ivy and shadows. Kids used to dare each other to run up and touch the rusted gate. Some claimed it would burn your skin. Others said if you stared into the second-floor window long enough, you'd see someone or something staring back. My brother, Caleb, was never afraid of stories like that. He was 2 years older and walked like the world owed him something. Brave, reckless, loud when he should have been quiet. But he loved exploring abandoned places. Where other kids played video games, Caleb scouted crumbling buildings and filmed everything. He ran a small YouTube channel called Urban Abyss, and he had exactly 6,000 subscribers, enough to make him feel unstoppable. The last video he ever posted was titled, Exploring the Haunted House at Hollow Creek, Uncut Footage. It ended just as he stepped through the door, breathing hard, flashlight beam trembling. The screen went black. No screams. No goodbyes. Just silence. The police searched for days. The town sheriff, a man with tired eyes and no tolerance for ghost stories, said there was no sign of struggle. He chalked it up to Caleb running away, maybe faking a mystery to boost his following. But I knew my brother. He'd never leave me without a word. Not like that. Not on Halloween. And I remembered what he said 2 days before he disappeared. We were walking home when he stopped, staring off toward the hills where the house crouched in shadow. You ever wonder why no one's torn it down? It's dangerous, I replied. Everyone says it's cursed. Exactly, Caleb said. But no one does anything. It's like the town's too scared to touch it, like they know it's better to leave it there. That conversation stuck with me. Weeks passed, then months. Halloween turned to winter, then spring. Still no sign of Caleb. The authorities gave up. My parents quietly unraveled. And that house, it just sat there untouched as if nothing had ever happened. Until last week. I was biking home one evening when I saw it. A flicker of movement inside the house. A faint light in the same upstairs window Caleb once pointed to and said, "That's where it watches from." I stopped. The wind blew dry leaves across the road, and my skin prickled with static. I should have gone home. Instead, I pedaled straight. to Caleb's old room and dug through his notes, photos, maps, everything he'd gathered for his investigation. He had marked the blueprints of the house, scribbled things like door in basement and do not look in mirror second floor. One note in particular chilled me. Whispers only start after 2 a.m. Listen for breathing beneath the floor. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I made up my mind. I packed a flashlight, my phone, and one of Caleb's old EMF readers, mostly for comfort. If there was even a chance he was still in there, I had to know. I didn't tell my parents, I didn't post online. This wasn't about content or thrill. It was about truth. I waited until nightfall. The house was even worse up close. The wooden steps groaned like bones beneath me. The door, though ancient, opened without resistance. Inside, the air was damp and choking. It smelled like rot, like forgotten things. Dust floated like ghosts in my flashlight's beam. Every surface was covered in grime. The wallpaper peeled like old skin, and the silence wasn't complete. I heard soft creaks above me, faint clicks like fingernails tapping wood. I whispered, "Caleb?" But my voice didn't carry. It felt like the walls absorbed sound. I moved deeper. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered from the video. The old paintings on the wall showed faces with eyes scratched out. At the end, the staircase waited, coiled and steep like it didn't want to be climbed. That's when I noticed something strange. There were footprints in the dust, fresh ones, leading up the stairs. My hand trembled on the banister. I followed them. Each step creaked louder than the last. As I reached the second floor, I saw the door Caleb entered in his video, slightly open. A faint red glow spilled from within. Then I heard it, knocking, but not on the door. From underneath me. 3 slow, deliberate knocks from beneath the floorboards. I froze. The EMF reader in my pocket spiked. Lights blinked red. My breath clouded in the air, though it wasn't cold. I took one cautious step toward the open room. That's when a voice, his voice, called out softly from inside. "Ethan, don't run. Ethan, don't run." The voice was too calm, too soft, but it was Caleb's. I hadn't heard my brother's voice in months, not even in dreams. But there it was, echoing from inside the room, curling out like smoke. Should have run. Every instinct begged me to turn back, but I didn't. I pushed the door open. The room was lit by a dim red bulb hanging from the ceiling, swinging ever so slightly. The walls were lined with old, cracked mirrors, and each one reflected me differently. Older, younger, missing my eyes or twisting slightly out of sync. Dust spiraled in the air, and in the center of the room was a single, high-backed chair. It was empty. No sign of Caleb. But the voice, I still heard it, closer now, whispering from beneath the floor again. "Come down. Come see what I saw." I hesitated, backing away toward the hallway. My light flickered. The EMF reader surged again, this time jumping so violently it buzzed in my hand. Behind me, the door slammed shut. My breath caught in my throat. I spun around, heart thudding. The mirrors around the room began vibrating softly, as though something were breathing on the other side of the glass. "Don't look into the mirror on the second floor." Caleb's warning echoed in my mind. I squeezed my eyes shut and bolted toward the hallway wall, feeling my way out. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the hallway, but the walls were no longer decayed and dust-covered. They were pristine, fresh wallpaper, clean light fixtures, and a faint piano melody playing from below. The house had changed. Somehow, it looked as it might have 50 years ago. I stood in disbelief, wondering if I had hallucinated the rot and ruin. Then I saw the photographs, framed family pictures lining the hallway. One of them showed a family of 5, a tall man, a woman in a dark dress, 2 boys, 1 girl. But the children's faces had been scratched out with something sharp, except for the oldest boy, who bore an eerie resemblance to Caleb. I stepped closer to study the image, and that's when the piano stopped. Silence. Then the knocking returned, this time above me. Tap. 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 I looked up. A faint outline of an attic hatch was visible on the ceiling. Had that always been there? The air grew heavier. My limbs felt slow, as if the house were pressing down on me. I had to keep moving. I found the staircase again, but this time it led down into complete darkness. I clicked my flashlight back on, and as I descended, I noticed the temperature was dropping. I could see my breath, thick and white. Every few steps I passed old family portraits. Only now the figures in the photos had turned. They faced the walls, all of them. At the bottom of the stairs, I found the basement door. It stood open. The flashlight's beam trembled in my hand. I stepped in. The basement was vast and much larger than I remembered. Stone walls, dripping pipes, and shelves lined with jars filled with unidentifiable floating objects. In the center was an old wooden table, and nailed to it was a small black book. Caleb's journal. I approached it slowly. The cover was scratched and burned, but I recognized his handwriting on the edge. I flipped it open. Inside were frantic entries, rushed notes, jagged diagrams, page after page detailing what he'd seen. Mentions of the mirror room, the woman in the dress maid, of hair the door beneath the house that shouldn't exist. But one entry was fresher than the others, almost like it had been written recently. She doesn't live here. She feeds here. She wears faces. I saw her wear mine. I heard a soft creak behind me. Turning slowly, I saw her. A woman, tall and impossibly thin, stood at the edge of the room. Her hair was long and knotted, falling like vines to the ground. She wore a tattered black dress. Her face was hidden, but not because of shadows. It was because she had no face. Just skin stretched where her eyes and mouth should be, as if someone had erased them. I couldn't move. My body locked in place. And then, slowly, she began to hum. It was the same piano tune I'd heard earlier. The sound curled around my spine, like a hand. I stumbled backward and ran. Back through the basement, up the stairs, across the pristine hallway, now once again rotting and dark. The house was shifting again, groaning, creaking, changing as I moved. The doors weren't where I left them. The staircase led to a wall. The windows were bricked over. It was trapping me. I turned a corner and found myself in the kitchen. The fridge door creaked open on its own. The smell was unbearable. Rot, sulfur, and wet dirt. Inside was a row of glass jars. Each one held something preserved in yellow liquid. One of them was Caleb's face. Not a photo. His actual face. Eyes closed, mouth slightly open. Skin folded neatly like it had been peeled off clean. I screamed and dropped the flashlight. In the sudden dark, I heard footsteps, bare, soft, feet walking across the floor behind me. Then, right beside my ear, his voice again. She took my face, but she wears it better. I turned, swinging the flashlight wildly, and for a second I saw him. Caleb, or what used to be him. His face was wrong. like it had been stitched back on. He smiled at me, wide and unfamiliar. His teeth were too many. His eyes didn't match. Something was using his body as a costume. "You came back for me," he whispered. "Now you can stay too." The gas lights in the house flickered violently. A sound like bones cracking echoed through the halls. And somewhere, the mirrors began to scream. Not shatter. Scream. I ran, not knowing which way was out. I heard something chase me, feet dragging, breathing heavy, the walls bending toward me as I passed. The EMF reader in my pocket exploded into sparks. I reached the front door, still sealed shut. The windows were bricked in. Every escape was gone. That's when I remembered the blueprints. Door and basement, back through the kitchen, down the stairs again. The basement seemed endless now. The shelves were gone. The table was gone. Only one thing remained, a door. It hadn't been there before. Rusted, bolted, bleeding from its seams. I grabbed the handle, yanked it open, and fell. Darkness swallowed me whole. No ground, no air. Just falling. Falling. Until I landed on something soft. A whisper echoed around me, hundreds of voices overlapping. "You came back. You belong here. The house remembers. The house needs." And then, silence. I opened my eyes and saw light. A faint, dull, gray glow, like dawn. I was lying on the porch, the front door behind me, sealed again. The sun was rising. Birds chirped like nothing had happened, except for one thing. In my hand was the black journal. The last page had been torn out, but scrawled on the inside cover were 3 words in my brother's handwriting. "She wears me." The sun was rising, but it felt all wrong. No warmth, no breeze. Just a motionless sky, washed out and gray like a painted backdrop. I stood at the edge of the porch, dazed. The neighborhood beyond the fence didn't look like it had before. Trees were twisted, misshapen. The road, once gravel, now stretched in a looping circle, turning back on itself like a snake biting its tail. I checked my phone. No signal. No time, no date. Only one thing remained consistent, the journal. It felt warm in my hand, like it was alive. I flipped through again, looking for anything I missed. And then I noticed it. On the inside of the back cover, drawn faintly in what looked like dried blood, was a map. Not of the house, but beneath it. Tunnels, chambers, a final marking near the bottom. The heart. The voice returned. But this time it wasn't Caleb's. It was hers. "You're closer now, Ethan. Just a little deeper. You saw me. But you didn't know me." I turned toward the house. It wasn't ruined anymore. It looked new, rebuilt. White paint fresh. Porch lights glowing. Curtains drawn neatly in the windows. A warm smell drifted out. Baked bread, cinnamon, childhood. Welcoming, like a lie you want to believe. My legs moved before my mind caught up. I stepped back into the house, and the door closed silently behind me. Everything inside was spotless. No sign of rot or time. The mirrors were clean. The floors were polished. A faint lullaby played on a distant phonograph. In the hallway stood a woman. Her back was to me. She wore a long white gown, hair down her back like silk ropes. She was humming, rocking slightly. In her arms, she held something wrapped in a baby blanket. I couldn't breathe. She turned. The bundle in her arms was empty, but the cloth was stained, dark and wet. She smiled at me, though her eyes didn't move, and then she blinked sideways. "Do you remember me now?" I ran, Back to the basement, past the jars, past the shelves, toward the far wall, where the door had been. It was gone. But the map, it burned in my mind. I counted my steps, turned left, then right, found a seam in the stone wall, pushed. Click. A secret panel opened. Behind it, stairs spiraling downward into soil and shadow. I descended. The air turned thick like syrup. My flashlight flickered constantly, catching glimpses of things in the dirt walls, faces pressed into the clay, eyes shut tight, mouths sewn closed. I reached the bottom, a massive cavern stretched before me, lit by pale veins in the stone walls that glowed like phosphorescent blood. In the center of the chamber was a pulsing mass, something like a heart but too big. Too slow. Too wrong. It was breathing. I stepped forward, and the heart shuddered. Out from the shadows emerged Caleb. But not the boy I knew. This version of him was still wearing his skin like a poorly tailored coat. He grinned too wide. His voice came in pieces like broken radio static. You brought it. The journal. It remembers. It feeds through memory. Behind him, shadows flickered like fire. Shapes moved. I saw other faces, half-formed, melting, twitching. Some looked like people I recognized. Others looked like versions of me. This house never wanted the living. It wanted what was left behind. The grief, the guilt, the remembering. My hands shook. I clutched the journal. Burn it, I whispered. No, he replied. She's inside it. She is it. The heart pulsed faster now. A deep moan echoed through the walls, almost like it was waking up. Suddenly, the book in my hand began to heat, then burn. I screamed and dropped it, watching it fall into the soil. From the pages spilled black ink. No, not ink. Something alive, thick and crawling. The shadows screamed. The false Caleb rushed me. But I didn't move. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the old lighter I always carried, the one from my father. I clicked it once, twice. Flame. I bent down, held it to the journal. The fire caught. The soil hissed. The walls screamed. The cavern shook. The false Caleb lunged, but his body unraveled in midair, like a suit of skin coming apart at the seams. All around me, the cavern collapsed. But in the final seconds before the world turned black, I saw her again. The woman, her face no longer blank. This time she wore my face. She mouthed one final word. Stay. And then, silence. I woke up in the grass. Morning dew clung to my skin. Birds chirped lazily in the trees overhead. The house was behind me. Only it wasn't the house anymore. It was a burnt shell, charred beams, crumbled chimney. The roof caved in like a broken rib cage. Black ash marked the earth like a wound that had never healed. The journal was gone. So was the basement. So was Caleb and her. I stumbled toward the edge of the lot. A rusted sign leaned sideways beside the fence. Private property. Condemned. Do not enter. I crossed the road in a daze. A jogger passed by, glanced at me, and offered a cautious nod before continuing on, earbuds in. I checked my phone. Signal returned. Date, August 4th. Time, 7:06 a.m. 2 full days had passed. No messages, no missed calls, no evidence I had ever been inside the house. Except for one thing. My palm was blistered, a perfect circle, like something had been burned into my skin. Left town without saying goodbye. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't answer questions when someone eventually called about a small fire near the woods, or when a local paper ran a strange piece about an unexplained sinkhole opening beneath the lot. I tried to forget. I really did. But some nights, when I dream, I still hear the lullaby echoing in the dark. I see her standing in the hallway, arms cradling something unseen. Sometimes she hums. Other times, she stares. And once, just once, I woke up to find footprints in my apartment. Small, bare, wet, leading from the door to my bed, certainly. Here's the final section of your story. People often ask me why I never talk about what happened, why I left everything behind, changed my name, and moved halfway across the country. I usually smile and say something vague. That house just wasn't for me. But the truth is, it still isn't done with me. I see reflections that don't belong to me. I hear lullabies playing in places where no music exists. And sometimes, in the soft hum of night, I feel something, standing just outside my door, waiting patiently, like it remembers me. You don't need to believe me. Just remember this. Some houses aren't haunted because of what died inside them. They're haunted because of what was born there, and what was born in that house and is still looking for a way out.